Welcome to The Leading Edge, Conversations with Saskatoon's Leaders. Hello, I'm Dave Hagel, and I'm your host. The focus of this show is on leadership. What is it? How does it work? What makes a leader tick? What are the advantages of being a leader? To explore these and other questions, I've invited guests from Saskatoon to share their perspectives on leadership. Our guests come from a wide variety of professions and backgrounds. Some come from the public, private and not-for-profit sectors. Others come from the entertainment and sports sectors. And yet we've got other people who don't belong to a particular organization or sector, and they've demonstrated leadership on a personal level. So if you're a new leader, stay tuned. We've got some tips and tools that will help you advance your career to the next level. And if you're already a leader, stay tuned. We've got some really interesting conversation for you. Welcome to The Leading Edge, Conversations with Saskatoon's Leaders. My guest has been a career fire service person. He's been in the fire service for more than 30 years, started as a firefighter and worked through progressively responsible positions. And he currently serves as the Chief of Fire Services in Saskatoon. It's my pleasure to welcome Chief Dan Paulsen. Dan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave.
So tell us about your current leadership role with the city.
Presently, I'm responsible for emergency services of the fire side for the city of Saskatoon, which includes not only the response capacity of the fire department, but also emergency measures. We have 335 staff within our organization, and as I say, I'm very proud to say that what we do and how we do it, I believe is a leading role within the country. I really do see a lot of positives in how we do it.
So that must be challenging, leading a team of 300 people. What are the things that you find challenging about the role?
I think the biggest thing we're seeing today is working with the generational gaps that we see in taking ownership. And every time that you go through and move through ranks, taking ownership is something that takes a lot of mentoring, and recognizing the skill sets that individuals have, giving them credit for that. I see that as one of the challenges of actually all leaders today, that you can have as many great plans as you'd like, but until you actually get those that work with you engaged, that's when you start to see the real successors start to roll.
So what are some of the things that you do as a leader to engage your team?
The biggest thing, I think, is to be able to describe the vision or the role that we end up seeing the department needs to be, what it needs to be, and how is it that we can engage in what we see as the future. And from what I see within our department in particular is our ability and need to engage the community, because that's what we're here for. Is that in years gone by, we really had a singular type response, and that was to be proactive or pardon me, reactive in what was being considered an emergency in the city. And through time, we've actually moved to be as much of a proactive organization that we can be, whether it's going to be fire prevention or our ability to get into the community to better pre-plan what the city looks like. So when I talk about engaging our staff, it's our staff understanding how much of an impact they can have within the community. It's actually really a unique chance that we have.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned vision. What's your vision for the Saskatoon Fire Service?
The vision itself is we want the citizens to be as protected as able. Now remember, we are an emergency response service, so we really don't have a lot of benchmarks that specifically say a success or not, because I mean, ideally you want to have zero fire loss, zero fatality rates. I mean, that's the ideal circumstance. It's like an insurance policy. You really don't ever want to use it. But you want to have the confidence in knowing that the service that is there is able to look after all of the needs that are being presented. And again, when I go back to the vision that we, I believe, as a department have created, is one of community engagement, community support. We take a great deal of satisfaction in the fact that there have been public polls that have been done about the Saskatoon Fire Department, and it's really a high regard that the citizens carry for our service and what we do. So I say I'm very proud to be a part of this organization.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that you need to be a CEO or a head of an organization or a chief to be a leader?
No. You should, by being engaged in whatever career choice that you have opportunities anywhere during that time frame to take on a leadership role. I mean, anybody that engages in their employment, but engages it in a means of self-satisfaction, those are all things that I see that really starts to spark leadership in individuals, where they all of a sudden catch this aha moment where I can make a difference. You know, I like what I do, I can do it better. And so at any point during their career, those that show leadership, they should, you know, obviously be encouraged to be able to continue down those roles. So I really believe in giving every individual the opportunity to succeed where they can.
What are the leadership skills that you're looking for in the fire service?
I've mentioned ownership to begin with, but I see, I mean, don't forget, again, with our service as what it is, being paramilitary, we need individuals that are going to be respectful, not only of themselves, but of the position, because of the mystique that is carried with the title of being a firefighter or a fire officer. There's an awful lot that is over history been carried with it. So just recognizing that it takes a lot more than just a title to be considered a leader. You have to be able to lead by example. You need to consider those around you. You also need to be, I believe, in order to lead the organization, you must have gone through it. And I know there's many different philosophies in leadership at this point in management, that a good manager can walk into any organization and be able to gain results. But I believe if you want to have results that are going to be long-standing, you need to have a good understanding of that organization. In particular, I say with the fire service, there's a great deal of history, but there's also a great deal of process that needs to be looked at when you're dealing with the type of situations that we carry.
Do you think there's a difference when there's a vacancy at the chief level and they bring somebody in from a different department? Or is that okay because they still understand fire and emergency services?
You know, it's an interesting thing when you go back and you look at early philosophy on management. It's always supposed to be new blood from the bottom and new blood from the top. But then again, if you have a healthy organization and you have succession planning in place, what you end up with is, at least what I see, is a really good fostering opportunity to continue growth. That just because it's a new idea or a new injection doesn't always mean that it's going to be the right direction. And I mean, here we have a department that's over 100 years old. And we have had chiefs come from the outside, and that's worked well. We've also had many chiefs from the inside. But I think many times it's circumstance that identifies the needs of an organization. And if there's a great deal of turmoil, then there are times where you're going to have to look to the outside. But I believe if the department itself has a strong vision, that if you have firmly and well-meaning engaged leaders and staff, that I think staffing or promoting from within is going to be your long-term solution to a real positive working atmosphere.
Do you think there's such a thing as the perfect leadership style?
No. And you know, it's Many times if you look at leadership style, a lot of it arises out of circumstance. You're going to get, as you mentioned earlier, do you have to actually be a CEO to be a leader? And we've seen it through history in many different places. People have stepped up. They recognize the fact that there's something that needs to be looked after, and they will step in and take over where it's necessary.
Leaders usually have a very strong set of values, and it dictates their behavior. What are the values that you hold near and dear to your heart?
Integrity is where it's going to start. And I mean, we all know the old adage, integrity is the fact that you're going to do something right even if nobody's looking. And that means you are doing the job and you're doing so for the right reasons. I look at, we have a job that if done improperly, it is catastrophic and fatal consequences to what we do. So when I think about that idea of integrity, my first consideration is that of the staff and of the citizenry. What is the impact from that? And that's honestly saying our department is doing so. So from my perspective as a leader, integrity is where it's going to start. Commitment and dedication are two others that tie with it. And you also asked a question about understanding the service or the department, whichever you're involved in. And the fire department has a great deal of legacy. Lots of it is steeped in proud tradition, but it's also a matter that we've also got a lot of changing dynamics right now that are impacting the fire service. And that's why I come back to that, the vision that we have, we need to move with it. And that is whether it's going to be injection of new response types, new response configurations. Even the fire itself is changing dramatically in expectations on us. So we've got a great number of things that we as leaders within the fire service have to be flexible enough to understand that and be positive on moving forward with it.
And adapt to the changes that come along.
Very much so, because I mean, at the rate that it's changing, and I mean historically, things really didn't start to evolve within the service till within the last 15 years that we've had dramatic changes to how we have to do business. And I believe that in order for us to do so, as you mentioned, adaptability and not being inflexible in how we do it, just the statement, we've always done it that way, it really doesn't hold a lot of water these days.
My guest is Chief Dan Paulsen. You're watching The Leading Edge, Conversations with Saskatoon's Leaders.